So today I'm talking about preparing for conferences, and that might sound very cheesy, that might sound very unimportant, but trust me, it isn't. And I'm going to explain to you why. AKA, you don't have to wear a suit to be taken seriously. Now, who's worn a suit to a game conference? All right. Did you feel comfortable in that suit throughout those days? Yes or no? Yes? Raise your hand. Were you comfortable? Yes? All right, good. This is what I'm going to talk about. So first of all, I'm going to introduce myself for the people who haven't seen or met me yet. I'm going to talk about how to get into and to conferences, what the optimal preparation is for yourself, for your project, for your teammates. I'm going to give you some handy tips and tricks, like always, and I'm going to offer you a summary, and there's going to be time for questions, I hope. So, who am I? My name's Vlad Miku. I used to be a game journalist for 4 years now, mostly during my college years that I built up that career. I have my own company, vgvisionary.com. I do freelance journalism, project management, consulting, event management, and all other kinds of things game related. I used to be the European editor of GameSauce magazine, which is an international game industry trade magazine. Wrote for a lot of other international outlets, ranging from Holland to the US to Pakistan. And I'm currently working with 2 of your fellow students on finishing a game called Snobbly Run. Let's talk conferences here. Now, these are some of the basic conferences that you might have heard of. Trust me, they're not the only ones. There's actually hundreds of thousands being held every day around the world about games, game marketing, you name it. I've been there, I've tried to go there, or I'm still planning on going there, and so should you. Why? Because it's very easy to get there. And your biggest enemy is yourself, and thinking that is not true. First of all, you can just volunteer. And a lot of these conferences actually do not get enough volunteers to help them out. And trust me, preparing a conference involves a lot of chairs, tables, pieces of paper, speakers to be helped out, you name it. They need volunteers. You mail them, you offer them your support, and they will support you. They will offer you maybe a place to stay. They will offer you maybe a free pass to the conference in exchange for a couple of hours of work. Make sure they don't turn you into slaves. But then again, hey, anything extra to save you money to actually attend one of these conferences is welcome, right? It's better than paying the full all-access pass, which for the GDC San Francisco is $1,800. Cover it for a game website or outlet. Now, that's an option too. If you like writing about video games, if you consider yourself to have an opinion or an interesting fact, I mean, you guys are the experts. You could easily apply for a job or a voluntary position at a game website near you or internationally to attend and cover such conferences for them. You write a couple of articles in exchange for a press pass that can save you hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But make sure that you do not screw yourself over or the conference over. If you do go there, do remember the unwritten rule that if you get a press pass, it is expected of you to give something in return in the form of coverage. So interview some people, do mention the conference. They will appreciate it, and they will be glad to offer you a press pass the year after if you provide some quality coverage about them. Send in a proposal for a talk. One of the things I've noticed the most with a lot of game developers, not just students, is that they think they have nothing interesting to say. Au contraire, as the French say. Everyone has something interesting to say. If it's about their inspirations, if it's about their game, or even if it's about what they are actually planning on doing with their game career, figure it out for yourself. Now, there's websites and conferences that actually host their former talks online. Casual Connect is a beautiful example. They have years of free presentations by former game students and independent game developers who have made it big by now, online for you to watch for free. The Game Vault in the GDC, more than 6 years of video footage. The only thing you have to do is attend the GDC for once, and you get a year's membership to look at all this juicy history of people who were there 5 years ago bluffed their way in to a talk and are multi-millionaires in the industry nowadays, a couple of years later. Enter a game competition. This is one of the easiest for you guys. I mean, there's the IGF. I think Veli-Pekka sent you guys an email 2 days ago with the competition with a deadline in the end of August. You could easily manage sending in either one of your previous projects that you haven't finished yet, or something that you come up with today, or of course after Swedish classes. Get a booth. I think I remember your school got a booth at Nordic last week. Getting a booth isn't that hard. It costs you money, but if you can find other people to do it with, or other companies to do it with, it actually gets really cheap. It gets cheap to the point that it might even get cheaper than actually buying the individual all-access passes for that conference. So negotiate. And of course the worst, but the last and the most possible, the one most people do because they don't give a crap about finding out alternatives, is they just pay. They just pay the hundreds of euros. They save up for them years and years before, and they go. But remember, whatever option you end up picking, you are investing in yourself. Every little penny that you end up drinking, playing, or smoking, you can invest in yourself by going to one of these conferences. So, why do one of the first three options, which were, as I just showed, volunteer, cover it, or send in a proposal for a talk? Well, let me just talk about myself. Here's my story. I used to be a big, fat, insecure, not very popular with the ladies kind of guy. And I had a passion for games. I had a big passion for games because they were my only friend. I did not have a lot of friends, and the friends I had, I met through the internet. I met through the games or through the clans I played in. I played Tactical Ops and Unreal Tournament, Battlefield 1942 for like 2 years straight on, 6 hours a day. I went to LAN parties and I got drunk with people I never faced before, but were my buddies because I knew them for several years already. And eventually I started playing competitions. I ended up managing teams like a Counter-Strike team and so on. And I ended up organizing LAN parties and everything. I realized that there was something behind the games, that there was something worth doing that did not just involve wasting hours and hours playing them, but actually helping to create them, or at least promote them, or at least create a community around them. And so I ended up, turning my passion into my career. I bluffed it till I made it. I started writing voluntarily for websites, whoever was prepared to let me write for them. I paid my way to the Tokyo Game Show in 2007, where I was, blessed with the opportunity of joining the first ever Dutch delegation of game developers to visit Tokyo and visit Japan, supported by the Dutch embassy to visit local developers. And I went to schools, I went to the Department of Defense, I went to the embassy, I went to Tokyo University and met the creator of Pac-Man, and there was a conference for game researchers after the Tokyo Game Show, which I also attended. I paid about 2,000 euros to be there. And my God, it was worth every penny. I saved up for it 3 months ahead of time. I taught myself Japanese 2 months long, because I was basically their translator. There was this group of game developers, right, from Holland. They'd never been to Japan, and suddenly they were there. And I was the only guy who actually even understood a little bit of Japanese. So I found my purpose, and I found my way to this conference as a journalist. And the same way I went to several other conferences and game conventions all around the world, most often just with the promise of a game website to give me a press pass for them to cover it. And I paid everything myself. But it got me here. So, one thing you can do is volunteer. 3 words. You get to see stuff behind the scenes. You get to figure out how conferences work. And guess what? You get to talk to the speakers. You get to ask them questions like, can I help you with anything? Or, sir, is everything all right? And you actually have a reason to approach them. You have a reason to approach Peter Molyneux just to ask him if he wants a glass of water. And who knows, maybe he's got a little bit of time. You can show him your game. And yes, he will be interested because you're not aggressive. You're not coming here to offend him. You're actually someone from the crew and you want to help him out. Cover the event as press. You know, I met Chris at the GDC San Francisco in 2009. And I was sitting with him in the W Hotel. And it was midnight. And I didn't know a lot of people. He didn't know a lot of people. But we bumped into each other. And we got to know each other. And I was, you know, he was trying to get his way into the industry. He was a game designer. He still is. He works at Microsoft now. And 1 year later, I bump into him again. And he's writing for Destructoid. And he got a press pass for the GDC. And he's actively writing and interviewing game developers for Destructoid. And, you know, I asked him, like, so what do you think about this? And he says, you know, for you guys, he wrote up this. He says, I guess if nothing else, being a part of the gaming press has allowed me to draw from nearly unlimited well of knowledge and inspiration that I may have otherwise never had access to. He worked for it, though. Bluff it till you make it. If you want to talk at a conference, the only thing you have is your wits. If you do not have a company that has already made millions, then the only thing you can do is have a really, really, really good story that is worth hearing by other people. So try it. Nobody's keeping you from figuring out what the deadlines are to give talks at the Indie Games Summit of GDC Europe, which sadly has already passed. That was April 8th. Or the Indie Gaming Summit of other conferences that are going to happen real soon. They are around there. Go look them up. But yeah, so here's a couple of tips for preparing for a conference. You know, don't forget your utility belt, first of all. Organize getting a hostel with friends and peers. Now everyone thinks, you know, we need to get a hotel. No crap, hotels are at least, you know, if you're going to a city and you want to be close to the venue, are going to be at least 40 euros a night. If you spend it together with 2 people, you might get annoyed by someone else's snoring or farts, but it will be 60. But here's the thing, there are hostels in every major city in the world. You can find a very cheap hostel. For example, the GDC has a standard hostel. I might be giving away my bed by telling you this, but they have a hostel 10 minutes away from the conference venue. It's about $25. All the indie game developers go there. So it's not only the fact that it's cheap and you get to spend time with other indie game developers, because they have like 4-person rooms, so there's a big chance you'll end up with an indie game developer there during the GDC. But it's also cheap and it's a community. All the indie game developers go there. It's a big family experience, like Full House. Step 2, the basics. I know for a fact that when I went to the GDC 2008 for the first time, I was overwhelmed. 20,000 game professionals were walking all around. John Romero from id fame came by like this, and I just froze and I didn't know what to say, and he just like, and I missed my chance to say hi. But I do understand that for many of you, going to a conference for the first time might feel like going to the first day of school. Will these people like me? Will I actually like them? What will they think of me? Will they judge me because of my clothing, or because of the funny hat I'm wearing, or because of my hair, or the way I look, or because I got an extra pound of fat? What will they think of me? I'm not sure, but I'm afraid. Yeah, that was me in 2008. I totally see where you're going with that. But you got to overcome it, because you're not the only one feeling that. So prepare your business cards. You know, you got to need a business card. Your resume, of course, have it with you. It's always good to have it. Even if it's on Dropbox and you get to find Wi-Fi. Then again, Wi-Fi is very unstable at a popular conference because everyone has 3 devices that use Wi-Fi nowadays. You know, bring a demo, a portfolio, trailer on your laptop, iPod, or iPhone. Don't get yourself caught talking to this big-ass producer from a AAA publisher who's actually interested in you and not be able to show him anything. You will regret that, sir and madam. You will regret that. And of course, don't forget to sleep. I've done that a couple of times. It doesn't work. You'll fall asleep in the middle of the day. Don't forget to take your sleep. Oh, and don't forget your toothbrush. So, I've seen, like I said, I've seen a lot of interesting people at conferences, a lot of interesting types of people. And I like looking at people. I like reading people. I like finding out what drives them and what's going through their minds. And I've noticed that you got 3 different categories. You know, you got the I'm wearing this game t-shirt and I generally don't care how I look, but I look generally unhygienic type. You have the I'm wearing shorts, but I'm still looking okay, but it's freezing outside, so I don't really know what I'm doing type. And so on. Until you get to the I'm dressed like a CEO, but I'm just 18-year-old type. So, true heroes do not have to wear costumes. Wear what you want to be. Wear who you want to be. And don't be insecure about it. Don't go camping. I know a lot of people that go to the lectures, and I see them in the morning sitting down for a talk. I go in the same hall the afternoon, and there they are in the same seat. And I'm just hoping they went to the bathroom. Right? A conference isn't just about talks. Spend 10-15% of your time on talks. And if you do, make sure that you're actually sitting next to someone you want to meet or talk with during that talk. Don't go camping. Do your research. I keep making this mistake every single time. Nordic last week actually was brilliant enough to have a list of attending companies on their website. They didn't tell you the names, but they told you that companies like Dice, Remedy, you name it, were being represented there. Rovio. But do your research. I mean, if I would have known how many cool people were actually at Nordic, I would have mailed them to at least talk to them for 5 minutes. Or I would have looked up a picture so I knew what they looked like. Instead of being like, oh, that guy was from Massive? Oh, I brought ground control and he didn't even sign it. Oh, noes. Too late. Do your research. Figure out who you want to meet. Figure out why. You're not going to approach them with, sir, I loved your game, it was so awesome. They will not respond well. They might like you, but they're not going to have a talk with you after that. Plan meetings. Of course, just tell people, like, hey, I want to meet. I know you have a busy schedule, whatever. But if you have 5 minutes, look me up. Here's my phone number. Here's my email. Let's stay in touch. Make a posse, but I'll tell you more about that later. And stay flexible. I mean, if someone walks up to you and he says, listen, I saw you yesterday. We didn't have a time to talk. I got 5 minutes now. You want to sit down? Don't tell him, no, I got to hurry to this lecture because it's really interesting. Be flexible. Have a plan B, and a C, and a D, and an E, till a Z. And a spare battery. Network, randomly. Learn to spot badges without getting caught. That's a very important one. You can't stand in front of someone and be like, hey there, nice to meet you. John? No, that will be very, very awkward. So try to teach yourself that when you're talking to someone that is wearing a badge and you don't know what he's called, you either call a friend and introduce them to each other and be like, hey, this is Veli. Nice, I want to introduce you to Veli. And Veli will be like, hey, nice to meet you, Veli. And the other guy will be like, nice to meet you, John. And you'll be like, oh, and then you have to watch his badge. And it will feel you make better because you don't have to face yourself with an awkward situation. Or, of course, you can always check your phone. Always works too. Or tie your shoes. But enough about that. So approach random people too. I've had this dozens of times. You know, I met someone who basically knew the person I wanted to talk to. It's beautiful because you figure out that this industry is very small very soon. You know, I was at the Nordic convention yesterday and they had a reception. And I went to the reception only knowing 2 people. Veli-Pekka, your teacher, and Ola Holmdahl, one of my, a person that I can call a friend, a good friend of mine. And I only knew two of these people, and Ola was busy, he was talking to other people, so I just walked with Veli-Pekka. And suddenly people started approaching him. And that's an excellent excuse to say, well, I'm sorry, I don't think we've met. Hi, my name's Vlad. And a half hour later, I knew everybody because the Nordic